Freedom Radio Hour. Live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Freedom Radio Hour. I'm your host, DJ Adam Cruz, and I'm here with my fantastic co-host,
Eddie Nicholas. What up, beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of 91.6 FM, the Heartbeat of Sudan. Freedom Radio Hour, y'all. DWildmusicradio.com.
Yes, sir.
We're here today, and we are going to talk with you about what, Adam? You know your spiel. Give it to them.
I'm so glad to see you first of all.
Likewise.
Let us take a moment to let our listeners and our viewers know that the Freedom Radio Hour is here, not only giving you fantastic music, but we're here to be your number one source for music business news and trends from around the globe. First of all, thank you in advance for liking, subscribing to our podcast, sharing our videos, checking out our website at freedomradiohour.com, and downloading our app. Search us out. All right, let's get right to it.
Get right to it.
Okay, so do you remember about net neutrality?
Yes.
Okay, so remember during the previous administration here in the States, there was a rule that they came up with called the Open Internet Order. Remember that? Mm-hmm. That everybody was going to be, everybody meaning telecommunications companies, were going to treat data equally. So the moment you hit click on a random search online,
you can go right to where
you can go where you need to at the same rate, no matter what you're doing. So in other words, no matter the service, the data is supposed to be the same, equal transmission, right? And so that was to prevent three things: to prevent throttling, blocking, and paid prioritization. That means if you're paying, then that puts your data first before anyone. So if a telecom company accepts money from another company, anytime you click for that company, it'll put it first. So it's saying, nope, we won't do that. No paid prioritization, no blocking, meaning we won't stop the competitor. So if you pay us $20, we won't stop your competitor. Mm-hmm. Okay, no blocking. No throttling means no slowing down. So it's like, we won't block you, but we'll just slow it down a little bit. So there was a promise amongst the telecommunications industries as issued by the Federal Communications Commission that said, you guys are not going to do that. Well, in the new administration, our current one, those internet orders have been put to the wayside.
Now, Pai is still in charge, right? Or did they get rid of him?
No, Ajit Pai, thank you. The head of the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, is Ajit Pai, and he is there. And one of the first things he did when he became the head was to repeal net neutrality, this thing we just explained.
An Obama era.
Yeah, Obama era rule. Most of the things that were abolished or put to the wayside were previous Obama era rules. And so now that was changed. Okay. So since that happened, you've had nearly 24 states that have reinstated net neutrality. In other words, they're saying, forget what the federal government is telling us. We are not going to engage in these issues that I was just explaining, okay? So two universities got together and said, we need to figure out what's going on right now. Northeastern University and University of Massachusetts Amherst.
Okay.
They got together and they said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We are going to outfit people with 126,000 smartphones users. So 126,000 smartphone users, and they conducted 650,000 tests. What they were doing was the following. They downloaded an app that tracked internet connection as you navigated through various functions and such. And so they had, so far the reports have come back between two telecom companies, T-Mobile and AT&T. So what they did is they analyzed and monitored the internet connection for all of 2018 and the first half of 2019. And what they found was this: T-Mobile was engaged in throttling. That's slowing down the competition's data. They were doing that with Netflix 51% of the time. And they were not doing it with other companies like Skype and Vimeo. So they're like, what's up with that? Then AT&T, they found was they were throttling Netflix 70% of the time and YouTube 74% of the time. But Amazon Prime Video, they didn't throttle at all. So I was like, that's interesting. So I just did a quick little Google schmoogle. two words, AT&T and Amazon, just to see what's going on. And wouldn't you know it, dating back 2016, even as far back as 2014, you see press releases that announce the strategic alliance between these two companies, AT&T and Amazon. So of course, and it's really simple, it's not hard to figure out that AT&T is not going to throttle Amazon Prime Video content.
But they will throttle Netflix.
Right, because they got the deal with who? With Amazon.
With Amazon.
So this is the very thing that the Open Internet Order and net neutrality had worked to prevent. And why is that an issue for you or I? We're talking about this on a music business show after all. And that's because if you're an artist or just a music lover, there are there are puppet masters at play here. Depending on who is signed to who's paying off who, they are slowing down, blocking, engaging in this kind of thing that makes it difficult for us to enjoy the music that we love.
Exactly. And you know, and it doesn't surprise me, because at any given time, it comes down to dollars and cents.
And now let me tell you something. I had this weird kind of thought too, since you talked about the dollars and cents. I wonder, even during the Obama era time period, if these two universities had gotten together, I wonder if there was still throttling, blocking, and pay prioritization happening, even though they had promised they wouldn't. It's like the putting your hands behind your back and crossing your fingers.
Until you get caught.
Until you get caught.
You know, it doesn't surprised me. But we'll be right back, you know, right here, 91.6 FM, the Heartbeat of Sudan, D-Wild Music Radio, the Freedom Radio Hour, y'all. We got more to come, more to discuss. Eddie Nicholas.
Adam Cruz, y'all. See y'all in a minute.
From author and music industry leader Adam Cruz, check out the new book, Free the Music Business, Tips and Tales from an Indie Music Nerd. Available now on paperback, Kindle, audiobook, and soundtrack, courtesy of Mixtape Sessions.
Freedom Radio Hour. Live on Capital Radio 91.6 FM.
What up, beautiful people, and welcome back. I'm Eddie Nicholas here at 91.6 FM, the Heartbeat of Sudan, Freedom Radio Hour, dwildmusicradio.com. You know, we left you in another episode, but we're back and we're ready to rev it up and talk about some more. And, of course, I'm sitting here with the one and only Mr.
Adam Cruz. You're deep in the zone right here in the Freedom Radio Hour.
Because I guess I almost got lost in the zone.
Well, we're here to be your number one source for music business news and trends from around the globe. You know, we were talking about what telecom companies like T-Mobile and AT&T are doing with the data that's being transmitted on the internet. But, you know, as artists, we still have to work out how to get the word out about our music, about our art, about whatever creative endeavors we're taking on, despite the fact that behind the scenes we're aware that telecom is doing its thing. So one of the things that I always wanted to talk about, and we're glad we're having this opportunity now, is to talk about ways to brand yourself. People use this word brand like we don't even really know what it means anymore because it's been used so much. It's become a cliche. You know, cliche is that word that you use over and over that over time has less of a meaning.
And you know, and when we think of brand, you know, at least when I think of brand, you think of a marketable commodity.
Yes, and then oftentimes, you know, people will say, I got a brand. I'm like, no, you really don't. You really have, like, you know, a hustle that you're trying to get off the ground, and perhaps it'll turn into a brand. But right now, it's not a brand just yet. Let's talk about it. So, of course, doing some research here in preparation for the episode, there's basically roughly around 5 different tips that we can offer you today to brand yourself within the music business. Again, who are we talking to? We're talking about fellow singers like Eddie or I, fellow producers like Eddie or I, fellow songwriters, singers, poets, a painter, an author, anything, any creative endeavor. I think these tips will help you. Well, at least I hope it does. So the first thing I want you to do is to know your community and know your audience. And
when we talk about that, it's who are you directing what you're doing to.
Exactly. So if you're a poet, you need to go hang out where the poets hang out. Not only that, you need to go hang out where the poet lovers hang out. So that means the people that are going to be your audience that you're going to try to market to, as well as the people that you want to hang out with, because you want to know where they hang out with so that the audience goes there as well. Right?
Like creatives.
Exactly. So that takes quite a bit of time. So in our instance, we're dance music artists and producers. So over the years, quite a few actually, I think over a decade or 2 decades, we've been spending a lot of time engaging with our community. So we've met and discovered other Eddies and Adams in the community, other Eddies and Adams that do music, that try to produce and share information. So we tend to try to hang out with those kinds of people, and that helps us in our endeavors because the audience there is that appreciates those people as well. So that's tip number one.
It broadens.
And you got to broaden. I know, but for some of us, we got to hear this back again as a refresher course. I know when I talk about this, I want to be clear that Eddie nor I sit here up high trying to dispel knowledge. No, we're here in a circle with you trying to gain insight.
Exactly. Because again, when Adam talks about many of these subjects, we're still struggling with some of it too on how do we bring forth a mixtape session brand, an Adam Cruz brand, an Eddie Nicholas brand, and culminating everything that we do to make that one brand for people to be able to say, I want that.
Exactly. Which leads me to the next thing. So first is know your community, know your audience. The second thing is be yourself at all costs.
Which is so important. The last thing people want to deal with is fakes and phonies. Or shysterism.
And yes, I love that word.
Shyster.
Sometimes it could be a little bit leaning towards the innocent, meaning that you're so enamored by a person's career or a group's career that you want to emulate it because you want that path for yourself. But the problem with that is that you're wasting time trying to replicate someone else's footsteps when yours are right there in front of you. If you would care to realize that your authenticity, your most original self, your originality is what's going to get you to the next level, not being the next
And not
person.
only that, if those people that some of us aspire to emulate, when we hear their stories, they're already telling you, in many cases, it was not an easy road.
Yes.
And if you want to walk down their very road, then you got to put up with a lot of pain, a lot of heartache, and a lot of sacrifice.
Well, that's the perfect segue because I don't mean to jump in, but I want to talk about using those sacrifices to pen a journey for yourself.
Exactly.
So the third point is to really know your message, spread your message, and develop the best music you can, or the best creative expression that you can, right?
Exactly.
And what you do is you try your best to be as honest as you can with those lyrics. And when you say you want to sing with me, if you hear Eddie sing live, Eddie is belting those notes out because he's passionate about the melisma he's bringing forth when he sings. That the floating melodies that come out of his voice. He's really passionate about that. And so I think I love that. That's one of the many things I love about you.
And be able to think quick.
Yes. So know your message, spread your message, and develop the best music. So that takes practice and experience. So in Eddie's case, you have to be able to be quick with all of those endeavors. Let's take another break. When we come back, we want to share 2 more points that are very important for you to know right here on the Freedom Radio Hour.
91.6 FM, the Heartbeat of Sudan, BWildMusicRadio.com, Freedom Radio Hour, y'all.
From author and music industry leader Adam Cruz, check out the new book, Free the Music Business, Tips and Tales from an Indie Music Nerd. Available now on paperback, Kindle, audiobook, and soundtrack, courtesy of Mixtape Sessions.
Freedom Radio Hour.
And we're back live on Capital Radio, 91.6 FM, the Heartbeat of Sudan, and on the web at thwildmusicradio.com. You're tuned in right now on the Freedom Radio Hour, your number one source for music business news and trends from around the globe. I'm DJ Adam Cruz, your host, and I'm sitting here next to my fantastic co-host,
Eddie Nicholas, and welcome back as we continue our discussion of what's going on in music and news around the globe, as Adam said.
I love how you said that. If you ever notice, I'm usually giggling when Eddie's talking. He just makes me laugh so much, so I appreciate your spirit.
Well, that's what it's about. It's about the heavy news and about the humor.
I know it.
And we got to bring it all. And speaking of news, you were talking about we had
ways to brand ourselves. You want to talk about two more points, right?
Points, yeah.
Yeah. So I want the fourth point is to remember that you're an entrepreneur. Don't forget that Jay-Z quote. I'm a businessman. So you got to remember that when you're up on that stage or you're performing at a gig or you're putting music out, you want to put the best cover art you can out. When you perform, you want to present yourself the best you can and make sure that you have your wares ready. What does that mean? So if you're going to sell USBs or access to your music, CDs, whatever you're going to do, t-shirts, merchandise, have that stuff at the ready. Don't forget that you're a business. You can't afford that. At the very least, on stage while you're performing at this event that we're pretending about, make sure you mention how to find you online. That costs you nothing. Always remember where people can find you because they don't know, and your job is to make it as easy as possible.
And especially with these phones nowadays, when you're talking about your call letters where you can be found, all they got to do is hold their phone up.
Exactly.
And it speaks right up in there, it pops right up. Shazam!
Exactly. And there's a quick little tip right now. Many times I'm at an event and they say, get your phone out right now. We'll wait. Get your phone out. Everybody got your phone out? Okay, look us up on Instagram right now. Look us up at Freedom Radio Hour, for example, or our Deck Music, for example. So it's really interesting that live at the event, they'll have everybody stop what they're doing and do it. And people oftentimes do that. And they sometimes will ask you to take a selfie and share it or check in.
Because it all taps into it.
Yes.
It all taps
But
into
the other
it.
part, too, about remembering that you're a business, you're an entrepreneur, is how you behave online and how you put forth your persona and how sometimes it gets mixed with your personal life. So that's a big thing when you're an entrepreneur.
And that becomes messy.
Yes.
Because a lot of times, and I've seen it, especially on, such social medias as Facebook and all that type of stuff, where your personal business spills over into your professional.
Right.
And things are said and people become, as I call it, blasphemous with the words that they said. You got all these keyboard warriors all up on there. And
so what do you think people should do? I mean, what should people really do?
It's hard, especially because personalities and personal feelings become involved, especially when it becomes business and business becomes messy.
Yes.
And when business becomes messy, regardless of how you do it, it just becomes messy. When your personal life, your affairs and your scandals, as we see so many people happen with, falls into play. And especially, I can talk about the dance community or the house community here in New Jersey. The community, while large, is still small.
Yes.
And everybody knows everybody.
Yes.
So again, it all boils back down to marketing, because if they see you doing something that they consider questionable, on any given board, you're going to have that proved.
Exactly.
That one person that's going to say, oh, they did that, we can't, blah, blah, blah. But because it comes down to money and sense, and especially if money is involved.
Yes.
And you have backers. So don't be messy. Always try to be diplomatic. Get your top dollar, but the same token, be diplomatic about it. Make sure you're at the table. Often, I've seen a lot of artists get messed up because they've allowed somebody else to make the final decision.
Yes, I agree.
And the final decision should always be up to you, the artist. What you will settle for, what you will do, and what you will say.
Yep.
Because look at J-Lo, for instance. She said something back in 1990 something about Gwyneth Paltrow and some of these other folks. Now all of a sudden all this stuff is coming back to haunt her.
Well, that's right, because now we're tweeting and using social media messaging, and so those things live on in infamy.
Yes, in that data space.
Yes, and they can look back, and that's what's causing a lot of this drama. I love this segment because I always wanted to talk about ways to innovate, and I think that's really the last key thing is don't forget to innovate around everything that you're doing.
Positivity, positive energy. Surround yourself with positive people. Surround yourself with creative people.
Don't forget the community. Like we said, don't forget that you want to do something different than the next person. There's so many of us out here, so many of us artists. How are you going to set yourself apart in a real way? How are you really going to do it?
And also get involved in what's going on musically in your own backyards, in your own communities. Because there, again, when we talk about creatives, what you do may be done in another branch that you do, but not necessarily done right where you're at.
Right.
You know, for Montclair, for instance, Adam and I live in Montclair, Bloomfield. While we do dance and house music on the whole, it's important that we work within our communities and give back to our communities so that people can see that we are involved in our communities, and that when needed, they can pick up the telephone and reach out and say, hey, they're about community, they're about this, they're about that, and your services are required and needed because you have shown that you're good at what you do and you're not messy.
And especially for us, as much activity that we have, not only did we get to know our community like we talked about earlier, we also want to tap into communities that we aren't as engrossed with.
Exactly.
So while we're here localized, we're global, right? So part of knowing your business, knowing your audience, look at those statistics. You know, if you have a free SoundCloud account, blogs, many websites, a lot of that stuff all for analytics. So that was the last point I want to make sure to mention, that people also knew and innovate around the information that you see. So if you see you got a spike in visitors from Sweden, you might want to consider a trip and see what you can do to get.
And not only consider a trip, get yourself entrenched up in there, start sending some of them DJs your material and your marketing, and just find out who is.
Where they are.
Who do I contact? Where they are. So it's about expansion. It's about research, self-interlooking, if that's a word.
You mean reflection?
Yeah, self-reflection, all of that type of stuff. It's about doing things like that, and just as you know, as we'll say, being true to who you are.
Yes.
You know, no fake, no phonies, just being true to who you are. And then what you have learned, all of this that you can do, it's about giving back.
Exactly.
It's about sharing the information, running it off, and who do I teach next to make sure that they can learn and they will have an easier plight on getting to where they got to go and what they got to do.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Freedom Radio Hour. Visit us on the web at freedomradiohour.com. Download our free app. Also, check out eddienicholas.com with a brand new single entitled Revolution, out now. Check out DJAdamCruz.com. You know, I have a book out called Free the Music Business. It's available on Amazon. Also, if you'd rather listen, check out the book on Audible. Also, I have albums out, music out, so search out Mixtape Sessions for all of that. A big shout out to our broadcasting partners, Capital Radio 91.6 FM and DWABmusicradio.com. Have a great weekend and a great week ahead. We'll see you next time.
Peace and love and hair crease and a lot of soul. Eddie Nicholas, Adam Cruz, the Freedom Radio, y'all. Bye.